station, The Nigel Farage Show.
Good morning, everybody. Well, I'm here in Washington, D.C., but it's somebody who's been a politician in this city for the last 30 years who's making the news back in the UK. Yes, it's Hillary Clinton. She's on tour. We saw last week in the Sunday Times that interview. We knew she was coming to London. We had some idea what she was going to say. Ostensibly, she's in London to launch a book. The book is called What Happened? It's available for £20 a copy, and you really should go and buy it because the Clintons clearly have not yet made enough money out of politics and public life. Haha. But really what it's about is she is still in a state of total shock and denial about the great events of 2016, being, of course, Brexit and Trump. This morning, she appeared on The Mars Show. Let's have a listen to what Hillary said, and then perhaps I might tell you what I really think about her. So, to begin with, she was very vocal about Brexit, and especially what no deal would mean. Oh, and also, while she was there, she had some kind words to say about me.
I think it would be a very big disadvantage to Britain. I mean, no deal, meaning no preferential trade deals, which means products in Britain would not have the kind of easy access to the European market that you've had under EU membership. It could very well mean that there would be more pressure on businesses in Britain, if not to leave completely, at least to also have sites and employment elsewhere in Europe. I think that the disruption for Britain could be, quite serious.
A lot of people on the other side of the argument here, on the pro-Brexit side, look to America and they see that is our future. A new great big trade deal with Donald Trump is the way forward for Britain.
Well, yes, but you're making a trade deal with someone who says he doesn't believe in trade. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to play out over the next few years. But I wanted to make another point about Brexit. Looking at the Brexit vote now, it was a precursor to some extent of what happened to us in the United States. But the amount of fabricated, false information that your voters were given by the Leave campaign. Say, yeah. Well, I'm not as familiar with, but I'm very familiar with what the Leave side said because they transported a lot of that on behalf of Trump. You had, Farage campaigning for Trump and the like. The big lie is a very potent tool, and we've somewhat kept it at bay in Western democracies, partly because of the freedom of the press. But given the absolutely explosive spread of online news and sites that have sprung up that are very effective at propagating false stories, we've got some thinking to do about how we're going to, not to say, you have to agree with me, that's not what I'm saying at all, but there has to be some basic level of fact and evidence in our politics, well, frankly, in all parts of our society.
Well, she doesn't like me very much, does she? And she doesn't like the internet because she'd much rather that you got all of your news and all of your information through the establishment liberal media. Well, she didn't stop there, and she was also asked whether her political rhetoric had let her down during the US campaign.
I think we're at a point in politics, maybe it's true here as it is in our country, where being thoughtful is viewed as somehow inauthentic. If you're taking your time formulating an answer to a very difficult question, and you've prepared, you have a lot of thoughts about it, that's not as immediately satisfying as just, coming out with some kind of rhetorical blast. So I thought it was odd that my experience was somehow not considered, sufficient in the new world in which we find ourselves, and that in a reality TV campaign, you get much more points if you're fast and quick and a little bit on the attack and insulting, because people say, oh, that's real. Well, it's not anymore real, but it does come across that way.
There we are. She was the intelligent candidate, and Trump is merely a product of television, of reality TV. And Trump himself, of course, was next in the firing line. She really doesn't like the Donald. She views him as an authoritarian, and she's concerned about his links with Putin.
In the last few weeks, we've seen examples of what I worried about. He made a statement the other day saying that NBC, one of our big broadcast TV networks, should have their license questioned because he doesn't like the stories that they produce about him.
So you think on the press, on the media, he's going beyond angry tweets to actually challenging the fabric of American media itself?
I think he wants to. That's why I said he wants to be like an authoritarian. He wants to. So far, he has been checked and balanced under our Constitution to a limited extent by the Congress and by the court system. So I think that the fabric is certainly being stretched.
Okay, let's talk about Russia, because as I say, it's a very interesting part of your book. And for people who don't know all the detail, it's a very complicated and detailed story. Can you just explain what the Russians did during the campaign, in your view?
Well, the Russians wanted to help Trump and hurt me. In their wildest dreams, they wanted to elect him and defeat me.
Why was that?
Well, I think for several reasons. Our intelligence community says that Putin had a personal grudge against me, in part because as Secretary of State, I spoke out about human rights abuses, illegitimate election activities within Russia. He wants to undermine NATO, the EU, American stability, and he has a lot of practice from Soviet days to the present in doing propaganda, having content organizations, they're called content farms in places like Macedonia, pumping out fake news, having Russians posing as Americans, and not just to denigrate me, which was a big part of what they did, but to sow distrust and division.
And she warns all of us across the West about foreign interference in elections.
I think Britain has a lot at stake in this, and I think this is affecting all of Western democracies. So part of what has to happen is cracking down on foreign interference in your election. And anyone who makes common cause with Russia, China, Iran, whoever it might be, right now it's Russia because they're the ones trying to destabilize Europe, should be held accountable, civilly and criminally, in my opinion.
Well, that was Hillary Clinton this morning on the Andrew Marr Show. Nothing there that particularly surprises me. The fact is, she is in a state of shock, as are the entire global elite, about the events of 2016. Brexit was the thing they never thought would happen. And she acknowledges, and I think she's right, that Brexit led directly to the election of Donald Trump, which I guess is why the day after I appeared on a platform in Jackson, Mississippi with Trump, she took to the airwaves and she called me, I was a misogynist, racist, homophobe. I mean, the list goes on, white supremacist. I mean, any attempt to try to damage a messenger who'd been part of the Brexit campaign. I have to say, I think this is now becoming a great whinge-a-thon. And despite the fact that she says she won't run for the US president again, I think she might. And I think she wants to keep herself relevant on the world stage. She is part of a global elite, along with people like Tony Blair, who want to do everything they can to reverse the Brexit result. She doesn't just believe in the European Union. She said to a lot of her Wall Street friends in a meeting that she didn't think was being recorded last year, that she wanted America to be part of a hemispheric common market. And she's now doing everything she can to sabotage a future trade deal between the UK and the United States of America by coming out with an outright lie that Trump is against trade. Trump is not against trade. Trump actually wants to have free trade deals with countries that he thinks are of similar value. What he doesn't want is American workers undercut by China and places in the Far East. I think Hillary Clinton is not only in a state of denial, I think she's making herself look frankly ridiculous. In her book, she blames the whole world, the Russians, the lies that were told in Brexit, everything is the fault of other people. Nothing is to do with her. And actually, many American voters were turned off by her, and turned off by her sense of entitlement. It was as if the presidency was meant to be hers, and she believed, to the moment the polls closed, that she would win comfortably. I don't think Hillary Clinton has much relevance. And as to the question, should we listen to Hillary Clinton? I would say we should no more listen to Hillary Clinton than we listened to Barack Obama during the referendum campaign, telling us not to vote for Brexit. Hillary, you lost. Move on. The war is over for you. Well, that's my view, and I believe it really pretty strongly. And I want your views on this. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me we should listen to Hillary Clinton, and that she is a very relevant person, and you can do that by calling 0345 60 60 973. You can text me on 84850. You can tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC, at LBC. You can watch us live on Facebook and comment there too. And after the break, we will go to one of Hillary Clinton's former speechwriters to make sure this show's got balance, and he's going to tell us that she's one of the most wonderful women that has ever lived. Right now, you're listening to The Nigel Farage Show, our Sunday edition, and it's 10:15.
This is LBC.
The big red building on Golders Green Road.
At Gold's Menswear, big men can choose from a huge range of top designer suits, jackets, blazers and trousers. They can fit anyone, extra tall, short, portly and king size up to 70-inch chest, all with savings of up to 75% off RRP. Gold's also offer an alteration service while you wait, plus Loken Barker shoes too. Open Sunday to Wednesday till 6, Thursdays till late, half day Friday.
The big red building on Golders Green Road.
Hey, Sarah, did you see our street in the Admiral ad last night?
Yeah, with the inspiration for multi-cover.
Guaranteed discounts on Admiral home and car insurance, don't you know?
Your home and car on one policy. But seriously, it's a lifesaver.
I know. I did my car, Rob's car and the house, and it was multi-cover discounts all round.
Ooh, that deserves a celebration.
Cup of tea, something stronger.
Multi-cover your home and cars at admiral.com.
Relax. It's Trust a Trader. Just type in your postcode, what you need, and ta-da! Local tradespeople appear. Visit trustatrader.com.
Trustatrader.com.
I love iPhone. When I get a new one, I can't stop finding new amazing things it can do. But suddenly, bam, all my data's gone. And the rest of the month is, well, empty. Please, can you help?
Certainly. At Vodafone, the iPhone 8 comes with an extra 10 gig on us, so you can love it even more. It's available now in-store and online with a 24-month extended warranty at no extra cost. You won't find that on any other network.
The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Credit check and minimum term agreement apply. Extra data on selected red plans only. Purchased by 31st of October. See vodafone.co.uk/terms.
It's Super Weekend at Lidl, with over 40% off selected products. Get Fairtrade Colombian ground coffee, just $1.49. A bottle of Cimarosa Sauvignon Blanc for $2.99. And a litre of cloudy apple juice, only 59p. Lidl, big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, NI varies, selected stores while stocks last.
Clinique Gift is on now at Debenhams. Choose any 6 of 9 deluxe minis from Clinique's most loved skincare and makeup treats to create your own personalised gift. Yours free with 2 Clinique purchases, one to be skincare or foundation, exclusively at Debenhams until Saturday 21st of October. Plus, visit us before Thursday the 19th and receive £5 worth of Debenhams Beauty Club card points with any skincare purchase. One gift per client while stocks last. Gift varies online. Beauty Club card must be registered to redeem points. One set of bonus points per customer per day. Terms and conditions apply.
Room service. Sorry to disturb you, but please make sure you don't miss the Sunday Times Best Places to Stay guide this weekend. We're bringing you the best hotels by the beach, in the countryside, and for great food. Plus, we reveal the #1 hotel in the UK. Exclusively in the Sunday Times this weekend.
The Cared For Used Car event is now on at Westway Nissan. We've over 1,500 quality used and nearly new Nissans with list price savings of up to £5,000. Be quick and enjoy £1,000 towards your finance deposit on the UK's biggest selection of used Nissans, plus up to 2 years free servicing. For genuine Nissan choice and value, choose a Cared For Used Nissan at Westway.
Google Westway Nissan today.
Representative 9.9% APR finance subject to status. Free servicing through Nissan Finance. Offers end October 23rd. T's and C's apply.
At Homebase, we want you to challenge us on quality. Our new range of kitchens has a lifetime guarantee on the cabinets for as long as you live in your home. Homebase. Always low prices. Terms and conditions apply.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington only on LBC.
Well, earlier on today, we spoke to Hillary Clinton's former speechwriter. He's a director of the Bretton Woods II program at New America. His name is Tamika Tillman, and he's a big supporter of Hillary Clinton. And it's important, I think, to get, a supportive voice. Let's hear what she's about, what motivates her, because my opinion is pretty clear on the other side. And we asked him earlier on this morning whether Hillary Clinton, considering she lost the election, still has a voice that we in the United Kingdom should listen to.
Look, there was a great British leader named Winston Churchill who came to the United States and encouraged us to take very seriously the dangers and threats that at the time leaders in our country were ignoring. Americans will be eternally grateful to have had that voice of friendship and courage that guided us to see a truth that many in our nation did not want to see. I think that Secretary Clinton and many others in the United States are very concerned about the direction in which the West is headed. We are very concerned about the forces that have been arrayed against us that are unfortunately being ignored, aided, or abetted by many within our societies who, for a variety of reasons, have found it within in their interest to make common cause with those that are no friends of democracy and are working rigorously and vigorously to undermine the ties on which our countries have built so much success in recent years. I think anyone in good conscience who is concerned about the future of our alliance and the future of our cooperation should speak out. That's what President Obama did in the past, and I would certainly hope that whether it's Secretary Clinton, myself, or anyone else who has those concerns will be willing to do so in the future. That's what friends do.
Next, we asked him whether Hillary was right that the Brexit vote indeed had been a precursor to what happened in the US presidential election.
Well, certainly the United States and a number of other countries in the West, it's become abundantly clear in the aftermath of the last election, have been subjected to psychological warfare on an industrial scale. This is something that is unprecedented in our recent history and clearly has had an impact on the way that people view institutions and the way that people view the difficult issues that we're wrestling with in our societies. There, by all indications, were serious violations of U.S. law during the last election. And it certainly seems reasonable to assume, although the British government has been somewhat less forthcoming in the information that's been released to date, that there were some nefarious influences in the Brexit campaign as well. So it seems not at all unrealistic to assert that there were some harbingers of the outcome of the U.S. election in the Brexit campaign.
We were also keen to know, why is it so many Democrats in America think the United Kingdom ought to stay part of the EU?
We value institutions. We value institutions that generations of our forebears have built up with the goal of creating a world where our children would be free from concerns about whether or not they're going to be safe and whether or not they're going to have to go to war. And we have, together in the UK and the US, invested an extraordinary amount of energy and political capital in building up the EU and in building up our alliances. Those alliances have served us extremely well. The partnerships that we have made the U.S.-EU economic relationship the most important in the world, the largest in the world. And it's also made the work that we do to promote peace, security, and democracy around the world infinitely easier than it would be if we had to pursue those objectives with a fragmented system. So at a moment when our institutions are in crisis and under fire, I think it's very reasonable to say we should think hard about burning down what we and others have worked so hard to build.
And given that Hillary herself had talked about America becoming part of this hemispheric common market, we also asked Tamika Tillman, her former speechwriter, whether there was any appetite in the US for America to perhaps link up with the EU single market.
I have heard very little to suggest that, so I don't know that that's a very reasonable supposition. What I do think is very reasonable to say, and has certainly been borne out by decades of close economic cooperation, is when the United States and Europe work together on economic policy and on trade policy, we are far and away the most powerful alliance in the world. And we can shape many other variables around the world in ways that are going to be advantageous to us jointly. The more fragmented we become, the more difficult that becomes, and the more it degrades and dissolves the power and the influence that we have previously enjoyed. There is one person who certainly benefits from this, and that's Vladimir Putin. But I think it's important to recognize who's going to be cheering as these bonds become weaker. And ultimately, I think the celebrations will not occur in London, the U.S., or Brussels. They'll be happening in the Kremlin.
You'll notice that very often the Democrats talk about the relationship between America and Europe, meaning the European Union. And certainly in Barack Obama's time, that meant Germany, because when Barack Obama flew to Europe, inevitably Berlin was the first place that he went to. But given that we're on the path to Brexit, we also asked that when the UK leaves the EU for good, can it have a successful trading relationship on its own with America? And bear in mind that it was a Democrat, Barack Obama, who said if we left the EU, we would be at the back of the queue.
Well, we certainly hope so. There's obviously a long history that our countries share in common and a great tradition of shared values. But at the same time, it would be naive to assume, especially in the context of an administration of the White House that views trade with a great deal of skepticism, that any trade agreement is going to be easy to secure. So I think those that imagine somehow that this is going to be a simple task as it relates to securing a trade agreement with the United States or any of the UK's other trading partners are living in a dream world mouthing cliches. This is just not the reality that we face in the world right now.
And finally, we asked, what's the future? With everything, security, defence, trade, what is the future relationship going to be between us and the US?
I don't know. And that's part of what concerns me, and I think many others. In the past, we have looked across the Atlantic and had great confidence in our ability to forge ever deeper and more resilient bonds between our countries. And going forward, I certainly hope that will be the case. But there is a much higher degree of uncertainty. The other great tragedy for Americans, frankly, is that the UK has been an indispensable voice within the European Union and has often been the deciding voice when it comes to speaking up on questions of value and on questions of our common collective security. The absence of that voice from debates in Brussels is going to be felt keenly, and it's something that I think we're still coming to terms with.
Well, that was Hillary Clinton's former speechwriter and director of the Bretton Woods II programme at New America, Tamika Tillman. And, he said, look, she's rather like a modern-day Winston Churchill. She's coming to the United Kingdom. She's warning us that big lies are being put about, particularly online, that the Russians are getting involved in everything, and that 2016 has been an horrendous mistake, and that Britain basically needs to rethink the Brexit vote. So, listen, you've heard my view. I don't think she is relevant anymore. I think she's lost. I think she looks really very whingy. But you've also heard the view that she is a very important international stateswoman who should be listened to. Let's see what you think. And let's go to Brandon, who's calling me from Romford. Good morning, Brandon.
Good morning, Nigel. I'm actually at Cheltenham Literature Festival today to hear Hillary speak. To those that have come to see her. But I have to say, as much as I respect yourself, your opinion, I really think you're terribly misguided with this. And the reason for that is because I have read her book. I've also listened to her on the audiobook. And in both versions, one thing that is consistent throughout is that she consistently says, yes, there are other factors here that played a role in the outcome of the election. However, I was still the candidate. I was still who had to convince the American people to choose me over him, and she says consistently, I was unable to do that, and that is my fault and my fault alone. So if you have read the book, Nigel, you would know this. If you have read the book, Nigel, you would know that is the stance that she has taken since. However, the reason why she's still relevant is because she's been incredibly responsible in saying, as much as it was my own fault that I lost the election, let's look at other factors that played a part. Yes, Russian interference. Nigel, her emails dominated the election 3 times more than any other factor in the election. That's both in terms of her policy and Trump's policy. Now, I'm sure even you would know, as a statesman like yourself, that policy should dominate the conversation because that is what actually governs our people. Now, for that fact and statistic that her emails were 3 times covered than anything else, just goes to show how deeply concerning Russian interference was, because they were able to wait.
Well, hang on, Brandon. You know, the whole question of how did these 40,000 emails get out into the public domain, it was being sold by her side of the argument that somehow the Russians had stolen them, when probably there's a much more innocent explanation. I take your point. She does in the book say, look, you know, I was the candidate, I failed, but she wraps that up into a great big conspiratorial story that somehow Brexit only happened because those of us on the Leave side lied to the electorate, that the internet is now effectively being used as a force for bad, and that somehow Putin played a major role in Russia. So I take your point. There is a degree of humility in the book, but hey, compared to the bigger picture, she really isn't accepting it. Tell me, have you ever heard her speak before or met her?
I have heard her speak before, and I have met her. I met her last year in September, a campaign event in Tampa in Florida. I was able to shake her hand, and I had a brief conversation with her, in which I found her to be one of the warmest and most down-to-earth politicians and people that I've met. And if you ever have the privilege to do so, I suggest you give her the time that she's due, because the insight that she provided into where she saw the American people going is fantastic. You know,
Brandon, I think it's unlikely that's going to happen, given the things she said about me. Whatever I've said about her this morning, Brandon, is nothing compared to what she said about me. I thank you for the call. Enjoy Cheltenham. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, live from Washington, D.C. It's 10:30, time for the news with Moira Alderson.
Anyone who causes death by dangerous driving could soon be jailed for life. The government's announced plans for careless motorists who kill people while under the influence of drink or drugs to get the same sentence. From 2019, people over 16 years of age who go to their GP or hospital in England could be asked to confirm whether they're straight, gay or bisexual. The NHS says it's to keep in line with equality legislation. 2 schoolgirls who'd been reported missing have been found safe and well in Falkirk. 14-year-old Leah Dixon and 12-year-old Jasmine Agnew, who's 12, were reported missing on Friday. LBC weather largely dry and warm with some sunny spells, but it will be wet and windy in northwestern Scotland with highs of 19 degrees.
LBC Travel, there are queues on the M4 Heathrow Spur Road going southbound towards the airport at junction 4A. 3 out of the 4 lanes are closed because of a serious accident. In Mile End on the A11 Mile End Road westbound, there's a lane closed because debris from some building works is in the road at Harford Street. Embarking on the A13 Ripple Road eastbound, the entry slip road to the Lodge Avenue junction is closed because of an accident. Engineering works on the rails means Victoria Mainline Station is closed today, so there's no Gatwick Express and a revised service on Southern. Cannon Street Station is also closed today, so all southeastern services are running in and out of Charing Cross instead. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
Join BT Infinity right now and you'll get our lowest ever standard price, and you won't pay an activation fee, saving you £50. It's $24.99 a month on a 12-month contract with $9.99 postage. But hurry, this offer ends soon, and by soon I mean the 19th of October. So join BT Infinity today at bt.com/deals. Be there, BT.
Prices may change. Price for month 13. $34.99 per month, 30 gigabytes usage. Terms apply. To verify, see bt.com/smarthub.
At Oak Furnitureland, everyone knows our furniture is 100% solid hardwood. And it's also up to 50% off. But most importantly, it's 100% solid hardwood.
Yes, but don't forget it's also up to 50% off.
Don't miss Oak Furnitureland's low price sale, where you'll find quality 100% solid hardwood
with up to 50% off. Our low price sale ends Sunday. Order today for guaranteed Christmas delivery. Visit oakfurnitureland.co.uk to find your nearest store.
From the elegant palazzos of the aristocratic port city of Trieste to the tiny narrow streets and stacked houses dug into rocks in Matera to the gently rolling hills of Le Longue in Piedmont, famous for Barolo and white truffles, and the grand piazzas of Catania overlooking majestic Mount Etna, Italy is the perfect short break destination at any time of the year. See, taste, discover authentic Italy. For inspiration on where to visit on your Italian short break, go to italia.it.
Enhance your lifestyle with unique kitchen and bathroom designs from Alaris. Whether you want technically advanced German kitchens from ProNorm or classic quality kitchens from Nearway, Alaris has what you're looking for. Or enjoy your dream bathroom with Alaris Bathroom Designs. For free design and competitive prices, visit Alaris at Crossways, Dartford or alariskitchens.co.uk.
Transform your home with Alaris.
When you run your own business, being in the right place at the right time can make all the difference. And as the UK's #1 commercial vehicle brand, we understand this too. That's why at the Ford Transit Show live event, we'll give you a free sat-nav when you purchase a new commercial vehicle, so your business can be in the right place at the right time, every time. Visit your nearest Ford dealer between the 7th and 15th of October. Ford. Together, we go further.
The free entry-level satellite navigation system available across the Transit range, excluding Base and Tornado series vehicles, to be contracted between the 7th and 15th of October 2017 and registered between the 7th of October 2017 and 30th of June 2018. Offer available to retail and eligible fleet customers only at participating Ford dealers, not available with any other promotions.
Welcome to London's exquisite Indian dining experience, Marla Restaurant. The finest North Indian cuisine in the most charming setting. Find us in the heart of one of London's divine hidden gems, St Catherine's Dock. Marla Restaurant. Visit us in St Catherine's Dock or go to marlarestaurant.co.uk.
Marla. Discover a jewel in London's secret paradise.
Where do you charge an electric car?
How quickly can I do it?
How far can you go on one charge?
How much can I save? Can I charge it at home?
Do I need a house with a drive? Can you get an electric shock off them?
If I plug in on mobile phone, will the car's battery run out?
Can they go in car washes?
Got questions about owning an electric car? Get the answers at goultralow.com.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington only on LBC.
Hillary Clinton's in town, and some think she's like Winston Churchill, coming to warn us that we've made a terrible mistake by voting for Brexit. We ought to rethink the whole thing, and it only happened because awful people like Nigel Farage lied to the electorate. So some people think she's relevant. Do you think we should listen to Hillary Clinton? I don't. I think she's past her sell-by date. I think it sounds like a huge whinge-a-thon. And on text I get, good morning, Nigel, I agree with you. I think Hillary Clinton is irrelevant now, but like Blair, she can still be dangerous to the Brexit cause. Why give her airtime at all, I get on Twitter? She is now no longer relevant to the politics of our country. Paul says on Facebook, frankly, both sides of the Brexit campaign were full of lies and misinformation. That part of the interview was fascinating, wasn't it? When Ma said to her, but surely both sides of the Brexit campaign said things that weren't right, she said she didn't have any information about that. Very convenient, wasn't it? She thinks just one side lied and the other didn't. Angela on Facebook says, Clinton compared to Churchill, how dare anyone utter those two words in the same sentence? And Theo says, Clinton blames the whole world for her defeat. Well, she does. Brandon, who was on before the break, who knows Hillary Clinton and is a supporter, made the point that in her book, What Happened, she does say, hey, I was the candidate, I didn't get the votes, but I don't think there's really much there other than her lashing out and blaming virtually everybody. Sandra is calling from Leighton. Sandra, good morning. Are you listening carefully? Are you listening carefully, Sandra, to what Hillary's telling you?
Well,
And Nigel, I missed it, but I need to catch up with it. But I'll tell you something, I would so much want to talk to you wrong, and I really wish that you and I could sit down and talk properly, not just for 2 minutes and get cut off. But let me get my point across. I was actually in US for the elections. I flew over. If there was no Russian interference, we Democrats would have had to accept the vote. Well, I would. And Nigel, if it was the other way around, right, that there was interference in the US elections or the Brexit, you would be doing what Hillary would be saying. So, yes, she is relevant. She's still alive and well, and we're not going to accept it as us being a sore loser just because of the interference. Why? The sacking of the FBI agent. Donald Trump is scared, and time will tell. Those are my true points. What's your say, Nigel?
All right. Well, let me ask you, Sandra. Number one, do you think that Brexit was won because people were lied to?
Right, I think there was lies, because the truth is, Nigel, I'm a Remainer, but I'm not a Ramona, and if we had a referendum again, I would vote leave, but there was lies on both sides. But my point, Nigel, is this. Had it gone the other way, Nigel, for Remain, you will be screaming on a soapbox saying let's do it again. So because it went your way, it's easy to tell all of us to
frankly,
shut up.
Sandra, there wouldn't be any point, because the chances of a vote in Parliament to give us another referendum, it just wouldn't have even been on the agenda. It wouldn't have happened. But do you genuinely, Sandra, think, you know, in your heart, that Russian interference played a role in a serious role in Trump winning?
Nigel, yes, I do. I don't know, and if it wasn't so, Nigel, I would act, like I said, knowing who I am, if we lost, we lost. You know what, Nigel? I just cannot wait for this, all this investigation to happen, just to see who was right. Yes, Nigel, I do. Okay, I didn't want to believe it, but you know what? There's something ain't right going on with the grudge that Putin's got against Hillary. All this backlash of whatever stuff I don't even know about. But
that was what she said this morning. She said it was a personal grudge by Putin. I don't find that particularly believable. I think there is hysteria here in Washington. Again, rather like the establishment can't explain to themselves why Brexit has happened, so they say it's lies. In America, they cannot believe that Trump, who so many in this town think is coarse and vulgar, they look down their nose at him, they can't believe he won, and they say, there must be a reason. It's got to be the Russians. Sandra, I thank you for your call and for your passion. Charlie is calling from Cardiff. Charlie, good morning.
I think we should still listen to Hillary Clinton. I mean, when you consider she got more votes than Trump, so I think she's still, what she has to say is still relevant. But this actually prompts me to ask you a question, which, put in context, I oppose most of what UKIP stand for and wouldn't want to see UKIP MPs, but I join you in condemning our first-past-the-post system that denied 4 million voters in 2005 their rightful representation. I also hear people, leavers, saying we shouldn't have a second referendum, we should recognise the will of the people. So my question to you is this. Although you wouldn't have wanted Hillary Clinton in, and you support Trump, would you join me in condemning the first-past-the-post system that they use in America, which thwarted the will of the people and gave the result, the presidency, to the lesser popular candidate?
Well, I don't think...
votes.
Yeah, I don't think, Charlie, you can compare the two systems. Clearly, our system is massively out of date. I mean, frankly, ludicrous. And obviously I say that with some strong personal feeling, because how 4 million votes can equate to almost nothing's beyond me. America's different, as you know. They've got this complex electoral college system. Hillary did get more votes than Trump. The reason for that's simple. Trump didn't go to California. He ignored California. And he accepted she'd win California, and whether she won it by 1 million votes or 5 million votes didn't really matter. In terms of the Electoral College, actually Trump won it pretty comfortably. But in terms of her being relevant, Charlie, I mean, I think, despite her denial on this programme, I think the Democrats are in a hell of a mess now nearly a year on from the presidential election, and something tells me, Charlie, that actually she's trying to stay relevant on the world stage, because I think she intends to run again for the US presidency.
I'm not sure on that. I mean, whether she will or not. I mean, you might be right. I mean, time will tell, I suppose.
I mean, otherwise, why would she bother coming to the UK? Why would she bother sort of joining in with Blair and basically saying Brexit's a huge mistake, it's going to hurt the country badly, companies are going to leave? Why would she bother to do it, if she was genuinely going to retire from politics? That's my view. Charlie, thank you very much indeed for your call. I get by text, I used to agree with Hillary on most things, but these days she is self-entitled and arrogant, says Chris. And I think it is that sense of entitlement, she wants to become the US president as if there was some sort of hereditary principle, that it was hers of right. That, I think, put off a lot of American voters. I wonder what Kingley, who's calling from Barnet, thinks. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, but to be honest with you, Kingley, I'm really enjoying Hillary attacking me. I'm having great fun because, I was told years ago you should be judged by your enemies, and I'm perfectly happy for her to be against me. But Kingley, I really am. But I mean, do you think she's relevant? Do you think she's relevant anymore?
I think she's being propped up until George Clooney gets his act together. I really do. I think George Clooney or some other, totally face-friendly star is going to come in. That's what they're going to do. They're going to keep that kind of dream going. But are you familiar with a television program called Breaking Bad?
Yep.
Have you watched it?
No, I haven't. I've heard all about it. I haven't watched it.
Okay.
Should I?
This is my genuine, only original opinion.
Go on.
The character Walter White is Walter White, and he's the baddest, meanest person. He dissolves people. He doesn't bury them. He dissolves them in these horrible procedures. And he runs with a gang of neo-Nazis. And Breaking Bad was huge across the whole of America, then the whole of the world. You can buy Breaking Bad T-shirts in Primark. Now, Walter White, who runs with a bunch of neo-Nazis, and that's such a popular program. Everybody watched it. Oh, it's amazing. I think that got into the psyche of America and gave the alt-right a voice. It gave them an identity. It gave them this concept that the most intelligent, most successful person is a white man called Walter White, who outsmarts all the ethnic minority people.
Right.
And he is more intelligent than anybody. He outsmarts the FBI, everybody.
But so what's the point of it, Kingley?
Because that was made about 7 years ago, and it's entered into the psyche of America that there is this white guy called Walter White who runs with neo-Nazis.
Kingley, let me tell you something. If that's your big go at Trump, the number of alt-right, the number of hard-right voters in America that supported Trump is very low. Most of Trump's voters were ordinary, decent, law-abiding, tax-paying US citizens who'd had enough of being governed by the big international elites. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, live from Washington, D.C. It's 10:46.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
They've hardly packed their bags getting back from Manchester, and already it could be seen that the Conservatives are at it again. Amber doesn't get on with Boris. What's Philip said about David? If it was a primary school, you'd sit them all down and say, right, I tell you what, if you don't sort yourselves out, I'm going to send you all home with a note with Mummy and Daddy, and you're all going to stay in late tomorrow, okay? So stop this squabbling now.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With Hampton by Hilton. Book direct for the lowest price.
Every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
Why on earth would WeBuyAnyCar.com want to tell the nation that they might get more money for their cars by selling privately? Are they stark raving mad? No, they're just being honest. Yes, you might get a better price selling privately, but you have to give up your precious time to do it. So if you value your time more than a few extra quid, enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com. Admin fee may apply. For more information, see WeBuyAnyCar.com/info.
Ready to be floored by an incredible offer? Right now at B&Q, we've slashed the prices of selected flooring, including laminate, real wood top layer, solid wood, and luxury vinyl click. It's your chance to grab an amazing flooring bargain. So for great deals this weekend, come to B&Q. Offer ends 16th of November. Some stores excluded. See DIY.com for details.
Clinique Gift is on now at Debenhams. Choose any 6 of 9 deluxe minis from Clinique's most loved skincare and makeup treats to create your own personalised gift. Yours free with 2 Clinique purchases, one to be skincare or foundation, exclusively at Debenhams until Saturday 21st of October. Plus, visit us before Thursday the 19th and receive £5 worth of Debenhams Beauty Club card points with any skincare purchase. One gift per client while stocks last. Gift varies online. Beauty Club card must be registered to redeem points. One set of bonus points per customer per day. Terms and conditions apply.
Hi Mum, what you doing? Making fairy cakes. Can I help? Of course, sweetheart. Can you weigh each egg to make sure they're between 57 and 60 grams? Then sieve this flour, put that through another sieve, and finally through this really fine sieve. Then count these hundreds and thousands. I like 200 on each. Actually, I have some homework. Oh.
People who work at Esso are obsessed with details. Useful if you're a fuel engineer like Deborah. Our new Synergy Supreme Plus unleaded fuel reduces friction to help look after your engine. Esso. Energy lives here. See esso.co.uk for details.
Glad I brought a coat. Thinking ahead, Wilbur? Well, it's like getting home care from British Gas before winter catches you out. From only £12 a month, that's less than 40p a day. Your boiler's serviced every year. If it still breaks down, we'll fix it. And until 23rd of October, you get 1 month free on most home care products when you buy online. You brought the umbrella. Thinking ahead. Not bad for a penguin. Stay a step ahead of winter. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply.
It's Super Weekend at Lidl, with over 40% off selected products. Get Fairtrade Colombian ground coffee, just $1.49. A bottle of Cimarosa Sauvignon Blanc for $2.99. And a litre of cloudy apple juice, only 59p. Lidl, big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, NI may vary, selected stores while stocks last.
Your journey is always more pleasurable with Aeroflot Russian Airlines. Our young fleet flies to an enormous range of destinations. Come and experience true hospitality delivered by our expert cabin crew and pilots, made even better by the choice of exquisite cuisine served on board. Then just sit back, relax, and enjoy the comfort of our state-of-the-art aircraft. You'll find you've enjoyed yourself before you've even landed. Fly Aeroflot.
I like my telly how I like my coffee. Strong, fast, and packing a punch. A bit like Sky One. Because when it comes to telly, I need it instantly. Super fast, straight to the brain. Just like that. Drink one, Sky One.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington only on LBC.
We're discussing Hillary Clinton. She's in London. Is she still relevant? Are the things she says to us about Brexit, are the things she says to us about potential Russian interference in the American elections, are these things relevant? Are they important? Tim says to me by text, I agree with a lot of your views, but I can't relate to your support for Trump. The guy is a moron. We've got to get him out of the White House. Well, I tell you what, a lot of people have thought all the way through this he's a moron. A lot of people have predicted he wouldn't become the nominee. Virtually everyone said he wouldn't become president. All I would say, Tim, you can think what you like. Don't underestimate him. Dorothy on Facebook says the voting system needs to be changed in the US. Same as it does here. Clinton had 3 million more votes. She did, in California. The way the American system works is each state has a number of votes that go to an electoral college. It's been designed so that the big, most populous states cannot dominate the smaller states that make up most of middle America. That's the system they've got. I would say this to you, Dorothy. Had Trump said, right, even though we know Hillary's going to win in California, we will spend lots of money and lots of time there, she wouldn't have won by 3 million votes. But that was a decision that he took. And the real question is why she didn't spend more time, why she never once visited Wisconsin, because frankly, she took it for granted. Ken said, I believe the Democrats are imploding. Ken, they have got a very real problem over here right now. Dirk says, the Brexit vote was popular in South Wales. This is where she received her honorary degree in Swansea. Well, there you are. Jason from Sutton is my next caller. Jason, good morning.
Hey, Nigel, good morning to you. All this talk about sort of Hillary Clinton's relevance, you seem to have accidentally stumbled upon something that actually makes Nigel Farage relevant for a change. Talking about the Russian involvement in various political schemes and things, would you care to talk more about your visits to the Deputy Commissioner of the Russian Embassy in 2013 before the Euro elections? Or maybe you'd like to explain to the general public why your name comes up when you triangulate things like Julian Assange, WikiLeaks, the US intelligence services have you tied to Roger Stone, who's admitted having activities and
Jason, you know, I tell you something, mate. Man, you want to get out more. You really do. You're clearly trying to tie yourself up in conspiracy theory. The Russian ambassador I met him in the European Parliament, if you really want to know. He was there visiting, meeting lots of different people. Actually, Jason, I've met ambassadors from all sorts of countries all over the world. And you're quite right. Hillary's friends have done their very best to try and tie me in to the Russia story. It's been said in the press that I'm a person of interest to the FBI in these investigations. It is all a complete and utter load of hogwash. I have never been to Russia. I've had no business dealings with Russia. I have no political connections with Russia at all. Nice try, Jason, but sorry, mate, it doesn't work. Chris from Reigate is my next caller. Good morning, Chris.
I'm here.
Hello.
I'm here. Sorry.
Hello. Right, you're on LBC, Chris. Is Hillary Clinton relevant? Come on, tell me. Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple of points actually. I've got one of your T-shirts from the previous election that got sent through the post, which was good. Hillary Clinton not relevant at all. No. I could go on about the Illuminati, but I won't. Brexit. I listen to LBC most days, and you know, every day it's just Brexit, Brexit, Brexit. Why don't they just get on with it? Trump, I like the guy. You know, we invaded Iraq. Why? For the oil. You know, Libya, I don't know, for whatever. But nobody ever did anything with Mugabe, did they? There's no oil there, is there?
You're broadening out, Chris, a little bit wider than we're trying to do this Sunday morning. But tell me something. When Hillary says that Brexit only triumphed because of the lies that were told by the Brexiteers and the internet, I mean, is that a relevant point, or is she just barking completely up the wrong tree, in your view?
Up the wrong tree. And I think the lesser of two evils, we now have Trump. And, you know, with Russia as well, I don't know. The world's a different place now, isn't it? Completely.
Do you know something, Chris? I do think she's right when she says that the Brexit phenomenon spilled over into the US and was a big part of why Trump won. But you know something? If the Democrats had picked any other candidate, they would have won the election. And the reason they didn't win the election is that Hillary Clinton had been around for too long, was seen to be too close to big power, to corruption, to big business, to big banks, and her sense of entitlement put many, many people off. Chris, I thank you. And my last caller on this subject is going to be Tony, who's calling from Fareham. Tony, good morning.
Yes, good morning, Nigel. Yes, I'm just anxious to see all these Russian agents standing outside American polling stations influencing American voters, but I didn't see any.
Absolutely. No. No. And even the idea, Tony, that it's the Russians that stole her emails, I don't think really stands up to any examination at all.
Well, when she was Secretary of State, Putin quite rightly pointed out that the Americans' security services were trying to undermine the Russian election, and that's the reason that Putin didn't trust her at all. And also her foreign policy, along with Obama, is unfortunately now what Mr. Trump is having to sweep up, I'm afraid.
Yeah, which I think in many ways, actually, he's doing pretty well with. He is a presence on the world stage, and I think around the world people listen to what he has to say.
Yes, and with regard to Iran, I think, Iran is playing the much bigger picture now in places like Yemen, Lebanon, and indeed Iraq and Syria. And they're on the verge of controlling the world's oil through the Strait of Hormuz, which has been completely ignored by most commentators, really.
Interesting. No, that's an interesting point, Tony. And your point about interference, actually, and this is the real irony of it, America has interfered in elections all over the world repeatedly. America has been to wars to stop political ideologies such as communism spreading. And it is, in some ways, is it not, a little bit rich, Tony, that a little bit rich that now it's America saying it's other countries that are trying to influence elections. And just lastly, Tony, when she says that Brexit was won because of fake news on the internet and the lies of people like me, what do you respond to that?
Well, the average person on the street with any amount of intelligence can see what's really happening in the world. And for instance, the unrest in America with the race division. Much of this happened under Obama's presidency, where many cities in America have now got no-go areas. I mean, that's happened over the last 8 years.
Do you know, you're absolutely right. There is a problem in this country, in America, with race division. Of that, there's no doubt. But one thing for certain, 8 years of Obama didn't make any of that better at all. I thank you very much. And looking ahead to the next hour, the Chancellor has labelled the European Union's Brexit negotiators as the enemy, a remark he subsequently described as a poor choice of words. During a television interview, Philip Hammond also called the negotiators the opponents and said they should behave like grown-ups, with Juncker shouting at us to pay more before moving on to the next stage of the negotiations. Was Hammond right? Is the EU starting to look like the enemy? If you think absolutely, call me on 0345 6060 973. If you think no, they're the good guys, text 84850. Maybe you're on the fence, but you can always tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. Stay tuned. I'm on Facebook and I'm live from Washington, D.C. next.
On FM, online, on your mobile and on digital radio. Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
Global's newsroom at 11 o'clock. People who kill someone whilst driving could soon face a life sentence. The government's also announced plans for careless drivers who kill while under the influence of drink or drugs to get the same sentence. Imogen Cawthry, who was 9 when a speeding driver using a phone knocked her down in a hit and run, says she welcomes the plans.
He ruined my life. Epilepsy is my worst enemy. It almost killed me a few years ago when it caused a hemorrhage. My memory problems are absolutely humiliating. Just don't use it and don't speed and don't drink, and that's all I ask.
The Academy that runs the Oscars has voted to kick out the film producer Harvey Weinstein following sexual assault and harassment claims against him. It says he doesn't merit the respect of his colleagues. He denies the accusations of rape. Forecasters are warning western parts of the UK could see travel disruption, damage and power cuts tomorrow as the remains of Hurricane Ophelia arrive. It was upgraded to a Category 3 storm overnight with winds of 115 miles an hour, but it's expected to weaken again over the coming hours. Former US presidential hopeful Hillary Clinton has claimed Brexit was won with a big lie. The losing Democrat candidate, who's currently in the UK, has said the EU referendum was a precursor to her own defeat to Donald Trump. In an interview, she said false information played a part in both campaigns. Hillary Clinton's former speechwriter, Tomika Tillman, has told LBC we're in a new era of campaigning.
Well, certainly the United States and a number of other countries in the West, it's become abundantly clear in the aftermath of the last election, have been subjected to psychological warfare on an industrial scale.
It's claimed the jets flown by Red Arrow's pilots are likely to be built abroad unless the government intervenes. 142 MPs have written to Theresa May calling for orders for replacements to be brought forward to try to save jobs at BAE Systems. Today is the last official day you have to spend your old round pound coins. At midnight they'll stop being legal tender, but you'll still be able to use them in some shops and exchange them at banks. Andy Green from the Royal British Legion has told LBC you'll also still be able to buy a poppy with one.
We're allowed to bank those throughout the Poppy Appeal, which is fantastic. What better way to use them to support our armed forces throughout the Poppy Appeal?
LBC weather, wet and windy in western Scotland with rain spreading into northern England later. Warm and dry with some sunny spells elsewhere. A high of 19 degrees Celsius. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Moira Alderson.
On October 29th, the clocks go back and the days get shorter. You could pull the duvet over your head and wait for spring. Or you could make the most of every bit of daylight left. Make a last dash to the coast. Or enjoy a scenic drive in the country while you still can. There's never been a better time either. With SEAT's Daylight Savings event, you get £1,000 off list price on any new SEAT, including the award-winning new Ibiza. That's on top of all existing offers. Visit seat.co.uk to download your £1,000 off voucher before October 31st.
Subject to availability, orders between 3rd and 31st of October, registered by 31st of March 2018, excludes SEAT Scrappage Incentive Scheme and Arona. Over 18s, retail only, T's and C's apply.
LBC travel is slow on the M25 clockwise in Hertfordshire. A lane is closed between junction 2.
Leading Britain's conversation. The Nigel Farage Show.
Well, of all the people, Philip Hammond, who we very much see as being one of the most pro-EU members of the Cabinet. Mind you, there's quite a few of them, but he's one of the most pro-EU members. But this week, there was a sense that perhaps even he was beginning to get a bit frustrated by the negotiation process that's happening in Brussels, and I think in many ways by the behaviour of Juncker, Barnier and Verhofstadt, and he described the EU as the enemy. Now, he's, of course, somewhat backtracked on it, but, you know, he's making it clear that actually he, as somebody who wants to have a good deal and a close deal, is finding it very, very difficult. And, you know, is he right? Is he right to say that the EU is now the enemy? Now, it did make me laugh that Jean-Claude Juncker the other day said, you know, it's like we've bought a round of 28 beers and everybody has to pay their corner, so Britain must pay. Well, Mr. Juncker, all I can say to you is we've brought several rounds of drinks over the course of the last 40 years. I don't think we owe you a penny. One of the mysteries to me about this so-called divorce bill is no one ever says exactly what the sum of money is. Figures of 50 billion euros, 100 billion euros simply get plucked out of the air. But is Hammond right? Is the EU now the enemy? And not going to surprise you that I'm the fiercest Eurosceptic there's probably ever been, and certainly the strongest Eurosceptic that the European Parliament's ever had. But my view is that, yes, the EU is the enemy, but not just the enemy of the United Kingdom. The EU is now the enemy of Europe. It is the enemy of the nation-states of Europe, the enemy of the companies operating in Europe, the enemy of the workers in Europe, and certainly the enemy of the very concept of nation-state democracy within Europe. You see, the whole point about Brexit and trade is they sell us £70 billion worth of goods more every single year than we sell them. It is strongly in the interests of people working in the French wine industry, the German car-making industry, the Belgian chocolate industry. Just 3 examples of where they sell us a lot more goods than we sell them. Millions of jobs across Europe are linked directly with trade to the United Kingdom. So if the European Union were acting in the interests of the other 27, they would want a simple free trade agreement with the United Kingdom. But they don't. They don't. They want Britain to be punished, or seen to be punished, and in turn, if that means that people across Europe lose their jobs, that companies contract, that doesn't matter anymore. Because what matters is Brussels. What matters are those glass and steel buildings. What matters is that flag, the anthem, the army they're trying to build. What matters is them pushing on with their political project, their dream. They want a United States of Europe, and they don't care who gets hurt as long as they reach that destination. So I do believe the EU is the enemy, but not just to Britain. It's the enemy of the kind of Europe that I want to live in, and I do want to live in a Europe where nation-state democracies trade together, cooperate together, and are the very best of friends together. And the EU, in my opinion, is now getting in the way of that. So tell me what you think. Am I right? Am I wrong? If you agree with me that the EU is now the enemy of democratic nation states in Europe, then call me on 0345 6060 973, or maybe you think I'm barking up the wrong tree and that Juncker and the gang are doing the right thing and that a United States of Europe is the great future that many can look forward to. Well, you can text to 84850 and you can tweet pretty much anything you like using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC, and you can watch us on Facebook and comment there too. Andrew from Halifax is my first caller on this. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. Well, I agree with you. Yes, the EU is the enemy, but I don't think it's become the enemy recently. I think it's become the enemy ever since it morphed from a trading bloc into a putative superstate back in the early 90s, which is when I turned against it, and I've been against it ever since.
Now, that was that was the Maastricht Treaty, Andrew, wasn't it? The Maastricht Treaty, and that was when... Because what happened was, when we joined it, it was called the EEC, and then, if you remember, they changed the name, they dropped an E, and it was the EC, and it was and it was only after Maastricht that it became known as the EU.
That's right, yeah, indeed. I mean, it's very welcome that Hammond's come out of these comments, but I just wonder if this is a cover for a much more sinister agenda. I read in this morning's Observer, I don't know if you've seen it, that there is a cabal of cross-party MPs attempting to come together to ensure that we can't have a no-deal Brexit. This collection of fetid trash, and I really have no apology to make for describing them like that, are determined to thwart democracy. And it really does wonder, it does make you wonder, Nigel, whether we can really call ourselves a democracy, considering what you and I and 17.4 million other people have been subjected to in terms of name-calling, denigration, everything else.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, you're absolutely right. Our own political elite do not want Brexit to happen, and they, of course, are aided and abetted by the global elite, which is people like Blair and, of course, Hillary, who is in the United Kingdom today and will be speaking at the Cheltenham Festival later. So there is this attempt going on. All I can say to you, Andrew, is my view is the 17.4 million are now a much bigger number. Brexit in a referendum now would achieve a much higher percentage than it did last time. And if they think they can simply thwart and frustrate us and that we're going to accept this lying down, I've got news for them, because we're not, Andrew, are we?
Well, no, I think what John F. Kennedy said back in the early 60s was as pertinent now as it was then, that, those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable.
No, listen, a very good point to end on. Andrew, I thank you. John is calling from Formby. John, good morning. Hammond, of all people, you'd have thought Hammond would have been praising them to the rafters. But is he right, John? Are they now the enemy?
Oh yes, absolutely. The way I read it is the Führer Juncker, as I call him, and his mates.
That's a bit rich, but go on.
Have a strategy of trying to sabotage Brexit. They're going to try and make it so tough for us that they hope that we'll give up. If that doesn't work, then they'll just try and exploit us as much as they can, and perhaps leave the door open for us rejoining, which would be music to the ears of Blair and Caroline Lucas and all that crowd.
And Nick Clegg, and there's actually quite a long list, John. A bit. So they'd like us to sort of come crawling back begging, would they?
Oh yes, and then they could exploit us even more. I mean, how Lucas says, we're losing our family and our friends. It's just pious tosh. It's just out of John Lennon's song Imagine.
Quite amazing, actually, that Caroline Lucas was elected to the European Parliament on the same day, in the same building as me, back in 1999. And in those days, John, the Green Party was pretty Eurosceptic. It was against us joining the Euro. It was very sceptical about deeper political integration. And I'll let you into a secret, John. In 1989, in the European elections, I voted Green. I voted Green. The party was then run by Jonathan Porritt, who I thought was a sensible bloke, and they were the one party in British politics, briefly in the 80s, who thought we shouldn't be part of what was about to become a European Union. And isn't it amazing? how parties like the Greens, parties like Sinn Féin, that were Eurosceptics, appear, once they go to Brussels, to change their mind. I'm sure it's got nothing, John, to do with money or the lifestyle.
Oh, absolutely nothing at all.
No. But do you agree with me, John? Because the point I'm making is, if I call the EU the enemy, I'm not saying we're the Brits and everybody south of Calais are simply ghastly. I think this is about Brussels and the monster that's been created there, and I don't think it's acting in the interests of anybody.
No, well, the way I look at it is that if Juncker was to make the Gettysburg Address, he would say government of the establishment, by the establishment, for the establishment. That's what matters, it's not the people. That's the way he did it.
He did give his Gettysburg Address in a sense, didn't he? Because his State of the Union speech that he gave in Strasbourg a few weeks ago actually went further than they've ever gone before. And it is to be a European Union in which every single country must join the euro. It's a European Union in which foreign policy will not be allowed to be stopped by any member state vetoing it, and where a European army, air force and navy will be completed by 2025. I tell you what, John, I can't see us ever rejoining that. Can you?
Never rule anything out, but it doesn't sound very likely at the present.
No, however much the Cleggs and Co. may want us to rejoin, I just think that speech of Juncker's actually is anathema to most of the population, and I can't see it happening. John, I thank you very much indeed. Text and tweets, Brexit may well cost me my job, not the EU. Brexit is the enemy, says Chris. Okay. Philip Hammond is pro-Philip Hammond. Now, the theory here is, of course, that Hammond has been seen as being the big obstructor within the cabinet, the one making it very difficult for us to come up with a good negotiating position, the one perhaps above all who has been dragging Theresa May towards a position of appeasement, because frankly that's what the Florence speech was. It was Theresa the appeaser, and maybe Hammond is playing a game here, saying, oh, actually, underneath it all, I'm Eurosceptic. Please, can I keep my job? Could be, I don't know. The EU is just trying to get as much money out of us as possible. They are not interested in a grown-up conversation, and that is the view of Steph. And Nigel, if we are getting divorced, why aren't we selling the assets and getting our share? Well, again, I've said this time and time again over the last few months. We do have some spending commitments out to 2020, but equally, we've got money invested in the European Investment Bank. Why don't we just call the whole thing quits? And yet, apparently, we owe them some massive bill, and yet nobody ever tells us exactly what the bill is. It's all rather odd. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, live from Washington, D.C. It's 6:15 in the morning here. It's 11:15 at home.
This is LBC.
I like my telly how I like my coffee. Strong, fast, and packing a punch. A bit like Sky One. Because when it comes to telly, I need it instantly. Super fast, straight to the brain. Just like that. Drink one, Sky One.
Every week, thousands of people sell with WeBuyAnyCar.com. Whether it's a Fiesta or a Ferrari, a Mini or a Merc, a Beamer or something else beginning with B, a big bright blue Bentley. WeBuyAnyCar.com makes selling any car simple, fast and hassle-free. Probably why it's called WeBuyAnyCar.com. Change the way you sell your car. Enter your reg number now at WeBuyAnyCar.com. Terms and conditions apply. See WeBuyAnyCar.com/info.
The best place for sleepyheads is in the Bridge Bedding bed.
At Bridge Bedding, we have hundreds of beds and mattresses in stock from the biggest brands in the UK. We'll beat any price on a like-for-like basis and we'll deliver for free. So before you buy your next new bed, visit a Bridge Bedding Centre, Rectory Groveley-on-Sea, Upminster Road, Hornchurch, or online at bridgebedding.com.
The best place for sleepyheads is in the Bridge Bedding bed.
Glad I brought a coat. Thinking ahead, Wilbur? Well, it's like getting home care from British Gas before winter catches you out. From only £12 a month, that's less than 40p a day. Your boiler's serviced every year. If it still breaks down, we'll fix it. And until 23rd of October, you get 1 month free on most home care products when you buy online. You brought the umbrella. Thinking ahead. Not bad for a penguin. Stay a step ahead of winter. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply.
Where do you charge an electric car?
How quickly can I do it?
How far can you go on one charge? How much can I save? Can I charge it at home? Do I need a house with a drive? Can you get an electric shock off them? If I plug in on mobile phone, will the car's battery run out? Can they go in car washes?
Got questions about owning an electric car? Get the answers at goultralow.com.
Whoever they want to be in life, give them a great start with Wellkid. Carefully balanced, great-tasting vitamins and minerals for 4 to 12-year-olds, with specific nutrients such as zinc and vitamin D, which support normal immune system function. The Wellkid range from Vitabiotics, from Boots, pharmacies and Vitabiotics.com.
At Homebase, we want you to challenge us on quality. Our new range of kitchens has a lifetime guarantee on the cabinets for as long as you live in your home. Homebase, always low prices, terms and conditions apply.
Calling all units, reports coming in of Sky's gripping new cop drama Tin Star, epic Game of Thrones and loads more shows, all with Sky TV from £20 a month. Sky TV and Sky Q, the next generation box, have been sighted in the vicinity. Witnesses report watching wirelessly all round the home for just £12 extra a month. Units should respond immediately and search Sky Q to join or recontract. Sky. Believe in better.
£20 standard setup. New 18-month TV contract requires Sky Q multi-screen. Sky Q kit loaned at no cost. Upfront payment required. Terms apply.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington only on LBC.
As Philip Hammond calls the EU the enemy in our Brexit negotiations, I'm asking, is he right? Is the EU now the enemy? And I think it is the enemy, but not just of us, but actually of all the nation-states of Europe. It now acts in its own interests. And interesting, isn't it, that it interferes in the Polish judicial system. It interferes with Hungarian immigration policy. It's interfered over the years with many things that we've done. It's never scared of criticising member state governments. And yet, when the Spanish used 10,000 police to stop people in Catalonia from expressing an opinion and injure 900 of them, it doesn't say a dicky bird until it's pressed, and then it says it thought necessary force was used. Everything with these guys is political. Everything is about building a united states of Europe, whether it's good for the citizens of Europe or not. And in the case of Brexit, a simple free trade arrangement would be the best for everybody, and yet they don't want to do it. However, there are some with a different point of view. Mandy says the United States of Europe. It has a beautiful ring to it. I don't know whether Mandy is Peter Mandelson. It could be, I suppose. It's possible. Scotty says, it looks like Brexit is fizzling out in the long grass. As the facts emerge, we will be staying in. Scotty, it's the politicians that want to keep us in. It is not the people. And the number of callers I've had over the course of the last few months who say, look, I voted Remain, but I would vote Brexit now. That, if we had that referendum again, it'd be a bigger number. Tina says, May will get us Brexit in name only. Well, that's the big fear and the big worry that I've got. And this week is actually going to be a very important week, a crucial week in many ways, because this Thursday coming, the 19th, there is going to be a European Union Leaders Summit taking place in Brussels. The Prime Ministers and Presidents of 28 nations are going to be there in the room. We know that the chief negotiator, Monsieur Barnier, has said he's disappointed with us, and he will explain to all the member states on Thursday that they can't even move on to discuss the next stage of negotiations because we haven't agreed to pay them enough money, basically. And I just wonder, at that moment, what Theresa May does. Because I think, frankly, we are getting near the end of the road with these people. I think we're wasting our time. We're whistling in the wind. They don't want a deal. And I think we need to give them a deadline and say, look, let's sort this out. You've got 6 months, whatever it is, to come back with a sensible deal, or frankly, we're just going to have to leave. And if we did that, at least we would avoid the transition period, and at least we would be able to get on negotiating trade with other parts of the world. Doesn't mean there isn't a huge amount to do in terms of borders and everything else there is. But I wonder if Mrs May comes back with her tail between her legs on Friday morning, having achieved nothing and having not changed the agenda. I wonder, if that's the case, how long she can stay as leader. I really do. David in Hampshire is my next caller. David, is the EU the enemy, or was the Chancellor...
Not today, but they will be. I mean, you just mentioned, I think, an email or a text from Scotty, and apparently it suggested now the facts are coming out, we're realising the error of our ways. Well, I'd like to ask him what facts they are. It seems to me the only facts that are coming out are those from Europe, who are as intransigent as they were when goodness me, David Cameron went to them. We're getting nowhere with these. We've seen what happened to the USSR when countries dared in the 70s and 80s to seek their own independence. We've seen what happens in Spain when a province seeks to exert itself, and this is the danger. This really is we are so lucky, Nigel, that we've got a vote, that we've had the vote and we've said we want to leave. Because I honestly think 3, 4, 5 years down the line, other countries won't be allowed to vote. And heaven forbid that there's some political calamity in this country that we, in a couple of years' time, go back cup in hand. I mean,
would you know, David?
They'd insist we join the euro then.
Had on Tuesday the Catalan president declared UDI, just said it's a universal declaration of independence, then what was going to happen was thousands of police and troops were going to go into Barcelona and take over the government buildings. It would have effectively been like a modern-day Prague Spring supported by the European Union. And, David, I'm with you. I think that far from being a force for good, the European Union now has the potential to be a very serious force for bad, and I'm very worried about it. And I hope that Brexit actually starts off a chain reaction across the whole of Europe. And I hope Hillary Clinton's not listening. She'd find this very difficult. But I hope it sparks off a chain reaction across Europe and we effectively get rid of Brussels, but have in its place a Europe of friendship and trade. Wouldn't that just make more sense?
Wouldn't it be wonderful?
Well, I think so, yeah.
That was the ideal that it started off with. And we've done nothing but lock ourselves more and more in. Wasn't there one treaty which we were told, it's just a tidying up exercise? One of the politicians said it doesn't really matter anything.
Well, that's that was the day the European Union launched their constitution, and Giscard d'Estaing, who'd been in charge of drafting the whole thing, stood up in Brussels at a press conference and waved the document and said, with this constitution, the European Union becomes a global economic and military superpower, right? And on the same day, Peter Hain, who was the Europe Minister, told the House of Commons it's a tidying up exercise. That is how much, David, we have been lied to for half a century by our politicians in this country, and it's that same group of people who now wish to frustrate our wishes. I know they won't frustrate your wishes, David, and I thank you for the call. Philip in Windsor, good morning. Good morning, Philip. No, he's gone. He'll be back in a second. And by the way, Scotty, you're the one that sent us that Facebook message about the facts emerging and Brexit fizzling out. Scotty, please call 0345 6060 973 and we'll put you on first. I get by Twitter, the EU bill is probably to top up the EU elite's pension pot. Part of it, a small part of the bill, but a part of the bill that is due to grow in time. And I do think, as far as our settlement there's concerned, what we should do is just take the 22,000 people that are entitled to pensions, take them off the European Union's hands to make it as clean a break as possible. Nigel, people need to wake up. The United States of Europe are more about taking power and money for themselves. I could see the EU in the future using their army to impose their will on anyone who opposes their views. Philip, They don't like people that oppose their views. They actually don't think that when I speak in the European Parliament and give a different perspective, they don't view that even as being a valid democratic viewpoint. They think that what I'm saying is monstrous. They think that referendums that say no will open the door to fascism. They are so intent on their belief that they've got it right and that everybody else has got it wrong, that you're right. There are circumstances in which I think that could become dangerous. Tony is calling from Chichester. Tony, good morning.
Good morning to you, Nigel. It doesn't seem to be generally known, but 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, Catalonia is going to announce independence. Did you know that?
Is that right, Tony? Where'd you get that from?
From Spain.
Okay, well, there was a statement last week.
Sorry?
There was a statement from the Catalonian president last week. So are you suggesting, Tony, that you've been told he could declare UDI tomorrow morning?
I heard it this morning, directly from Spain, on the news in Spain.
All right, well, let's see. I don't know.
Well, let's see what's going to happen tomorrow morning, because this could be imploding. This could be the beginning of the implosion. There's so many countries, they're 28 when they're 26, 28 when they get together. Why can't they see through these two imbeciles? Why can't they see through them and speak for themselves?
What would happen, Tony? I mean, if the Catalans did declare UDI tomorrow morning, what do you think the implications of that are for the European Union?
To the European Union, they'd be totally flabbergasted because they don't want it. Obviously, it's going to be it's a domino system. It could be good for us.
Well, I've never been a supporter of the Catalan independence cause. I mean, I generally like to think that nation-states can hold together and do their thing. But I have to say, the way they've been treated, the response to them has been so frankly monstrous that it's not just the Spanish government that one condemns, it is the European Union themselves. Tony, Tony, do you feel with the Brexit process, do you feel that we are actually going to get a clean break and leave or not?
No, it's too much. It's too much information is not getting out. We don't know where we are now. We just don't know. We don't have the facts, and I think this is the same for the rest of the European people. They don't know the facts. What's happening? It's just a disaster all round.
Well, the key to it is going to be this business about no deal, and it looks to me, although we're going to have no option but to go for no deal. I've always said no deal is better than a bad deal. I've also said, Tony, that no deal is better than the current deal we've got, which is very, very expensive indeed. And I was really interesting last week to see an opinion poll, Sky Data opinion poll, saying that 74% of the British public think no deal is better than a bad deal. And think about it. You know, if I came up to you and said, look, I've got a really bad deal for you, do you want it? You'd say, no, I don't. And yet, our political elite seem to think that no deal would be a catastrophe and we'd fall off the edge of a cliff. Are the EU the enemy? Well, in these negotiations, they're certainly being unreasonable. They're certainly behaving like it. That's my view. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC, live from Washington, D.C. It's 11:30, and time for the news with Moira Alderson.
Anyone who causes death by dangerous driving could soon be jailed for life. The government's also announced plans for careless motorists who kill while under the influence of drink or drugs to get the same sentence. Family doctors, nurses and other medical staff will be able to ask patients about their sexual orientation under new government plans. The Health Service says it's to keep in line with equality legislation, but critics claim it's prying. The Met Office has issued Northern Ireland with an amber weather warning, which means potential danger to life as Hurricane Ophelia heads towards the UK. The Category 3 storm currently has winds of more than 100 miles an hour. LBC weather largely dry and warm with sunny spells today, but it'll be wet and windy in northwestern Scotland with highs of 19 degrees.
LBC travel, it's slow on the M25 clockwise in Hertfordshire. Lane remains closed between junction 24 for Potters Bar and junction 25 for Enfield because a car's broken down. Embarking on the A13 Ripple Road eastbound, the entry slip road to the Lodge Avenue junction is closed. That's because of an accident. In Bexley, Edison Road is blocked both ways because of emergency repairs between Chaucer Road and Wickham Street. Engineering works on the rails means that Great Western Railway have replacement buses running from Paddington to Didcot Parkway and Thiel. Victoria Mainline Station is closed today, so there's no Gatwick Express and a revised service on Southern Rail. LBC Travel, I'm Dave Goff.
This is LBC.
How did a military tank end up beneath a Surrey vineyard? And what will be left of a German bomber in a Liverpool marsh? Join Madness frontman Suggs and expert relic hunter Stephen Taylor as they dig up World War II treasures and work to uncover the fascinating tales buried with them. World War II Treasure Hunters, 9 p.m. Monday on History, part of this month's World War True season. The war you know, the stories you don't. Watch History on Sky, Virgin, BT and TalkTalk.
Oh, Churchy, look at that snazzy new car. Like me in the glory days, before I got written off. My blinkers had that keen sparkle, and my pipes, well, don't get me started on my pipe.
Oh, no.
If your car is written off, you can choose between a replacement, paying for an upgrade, or the money.
Time to pass on the baton. Oh.
Churchill, depend on the dog. Comprehensive cover only, excludes theft claims, exact match subject to availability, minimum car value £3,500 or cash replacement, upgrade available when difference is paid, underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
The Volkswagen used car event started on Friday the 13th. But don't worry, you're still in luck. You can still buy a used car with 2 years approved used warranty, 2 years MOT insurance, 2 years roadside cover, and 2 services included on Solutions Personal Contract Plan at 6.9% APR representative. So it doesn't matter how unlucky your day is, we've got you covered. For extra reassurance on a used Volkswagen, visit the used car event at your local Volkswagen retailer from the 13th to the 30th of October. Offers on used Volkswagens aged 3 to 48 months. Excludes electric vehicles. Participating retailers, 18s and over. T's and C's apply. Subject to status. Indemnities may be required. Volkswagen Financial Services.
I love iPhone. When I get a new one, I can't stop finding new amazing things it can do. But suddenly, bam, all my data's gone. And the rest of the month is, well, empty. Please, can you help?
Certainly. At Vodafone, the iPhone 8 comes with an extra 10 gig on us, so you can love it even more. It's available now in-store and online with a 24-month extended warranty at no extra cost. You won't find that on any other network.
The future is exciting. Ready? Vodafone.
Credit check and minimum term agreement apply. Extra data on selected red plans only. Purchased by 31st of October. See vodafone.co.uk/terms.
Blimey, it's getting dark so early now. Oh, well, all the more reason to head home with our flavour-packed barbecue rib wrap meal for 2 with dirty fries and baby leaf salad for only £6. Give yourself something to look forward to this autumn evening with our delicious meals for 2. Choose from any mouth-watering main and 2 tasty sides. Another great value meal deal for you from the Co-op. Subject to availability, see participating stores for details. Meal deal includes 1 main and 2 sides for £6.
How many tablets did you take this morning? On average, people over 55 say 4. That's over 100 a month. Well, at least for your painful joints, there's an alternative treatment. Voltarol 12-hour gel works deep in the joint to fight pain and inflammation all day long. Voltarol 12-hour gel. Let's hear it for the joy of movement. Ask your pharmacist.
Voltarol 12-hour Emigel P 2.32% gel contains diclofenac diethyl ammonium for relief of pain and inflammation. Always read the label.
Eating some crisps, watching Sky One. Crisps are proper telly food. No plates, no cutlery, no table. They even come in their own tidy little bag. Just lick your fingers before touching the remote. Love my crisps. Almost as much as I love telly. Crispy one, Sky One.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington only on LBC.
The Brexit negotiations are going badly. We are being met with intransigence, frankly, even arrogance by Mr. Juncker, Barnier and Verhofstadt over in Brussels. And that's perhaps why, being frustrated, the Chancellor Philip Hammond described them as the enemy. So I'm asking you, are the European Union the enemy? And I think they are, but not just of us. I think they're the enemy of democracy and the enemy of sensible cooperation between nation-states in Europe because they're so intent on building their own undemocratic empire. That's my view. You can agree with me. You equally can disagree with me. But just a thought from this side of the pond. A year on from the election, President Trump's style as president still stuns, shocks, appalls, delights people, and none more so than the big row that is going on with the NFL. The big row about American footballers, the big row about when the anthem plays, and Trump made the point that, you know, frankly, if these overpaid sons of bitches who play football don't stand, they should be fired. And this triggered off the most enormous row. And Trump watchers, even Trump supporters, kind of scratched their head and asked themselves, what on earth is the president doing getting involved in this? Well, on Friday, the NFL made its official position clear, saying the league will not issue any kind of rules that require players to stand for the national anthem, but they are meeting again in New York this week. And it's really interesting because what's happened is their ratings on American television have gone down. They've gone down because people are seeing members of the team kneeling, and supposedly it's to do with black rights and unfairness and racial divide in this country. But the TV ratings for NFL have gone down since Trump started this fight, and public opinion on whether the president is right to say that players should stand for the national anthem, public opinion has gone through the roof in support of the president's position. So, you know, it is an unusual style of presidency, but I tell you the interesting thing, he appears to be winning more battles than he's losing. Back to our friends in Brussels, Juncker and the gang. Michelle in Slough, are they the enemy, or am I being terribly unkind?
Well, I've got a confession to make here, Nigel. I stood as a Green Party candidate back in 2004 with a coalition that we turned for a couple of years a council into a local coalition of councillors that included UKIP and the Greens together. And I actually believe that globalisation is the enemy. The policy at the time when I did that with the Green Party was localisation, not globalisation. And we have global organisations that we all know milk, don't pay taxes and do all sorts of naughty things that they shouldn't be doing. Well, the thing is that I actually believe that basically the European is just the puppets of multinational globalisation that wants to control us from a distance so that we're merely puppets.
Michelle, as I said earlier, I voted Green all those years ago. I watched Caroline Lucas campaigning against us joining the Euro. What has happened to your party, Michelle? Why are they now suddenly the most rabid pro-EU supporters in the country?
I've got no idea. I personally agree with Jenny Jones's situation. I stand by exactly my opinion, like yours, hasn't changed. We're of a similar generation, and my opinion actually hasn't changed, that the solution is localisation, not globalisation. We need farmers, we need local farmers growing crops. In this country, we do not need cheap labour transporting an apple all the way around the globe and back again, just milking off lots of profits for some great big stockbroker somewhere.
Michelle, when it comes to sensible greenery, I've always been a supporter of it. But let me just give you a clue as to what I think's happened. In 18 years in the European Parliament, I've seen political parties, but I've also seen political individuals who've arrived in Brussels with a very sceptical position and who transform over a period of time to be supporters of the system. And it is, Michelle, about a lifestyle that most people could never get anywhere else. You know, you're an MEP. You click your fingers, there's a motor car to take you wherever you want. There's a never-ending round of invitations to lunches and breakfasts and champagne receptions. And I think, Michelle, people literally get intoxicated by the system in Brussels. That's my view.
Well, I mean, one of the sayings in the world is money corrupts.
Yeah, money corrupts, but also it's power that corrupts.
Indeed,
and they do feel, I think they feel in Europe that they're part of something big and powerful and exciting. Tell me, are you still a Green Party voter?
Well, hands up, we personally speaking, I couldn't really rather go with... I thought the Green Party, over the last couple of years, have got sidetracked with the whole Brexit thing. I personally didn't stand, and I've been one of the organisers in the past, so I didn't even have a Green Party candidate to vote for, I'm afraid.
Right. Yeah, so you're feeling a bit disillusioned.
Actually, the last one in my local elections I had to vote for was myself.
Right, OK. Michelle from Slough, thank you. And interesting, you know, a lot of people like Michelle out there who were Greens going back, who saw the EU as part of the globalist project. The party now supports it. But there we are. If anybody from the Green Party is listening and supports the Caroline Lucas position, please do call us. Please let us know. Nigel, how can the PM offer a transition period before we know what we're transitioning to? Pretty good point, really, isn't it? Nigel, if the so-called Remainers can't see the EU for what it is now, a nasty, vindictive, bureaucratic bear with a sore head, well, you have to question their much heralded intelligence. Chuck says on Facebook, the political establishment in the UK is the enemy. Chuck, I'm with you. I'm with you. Actually, it is the political establishment, the political elite in our country. They're the real enemy because they're the ones that effectively sold us into political union with Europe without ever telling us the truth about what they were doing, and then have the effrontery to say that because Boris put a figure on the side of a bus, that somehow it was the Leave side that had won this referendum through lies when they'd been doing it for half a century. Andrew said, I don't think British Eurosceptics should be automatically supportive of Spanish unionism. This current Spanish government has tried bullying tactics over Gibraltar, so I believe we should be open about the pros of Catalonian independence. Andrew, I'm with you on that. I'm open to it. I'd never particularly been a supporter of it, but you're quite right. We are supposed to be in a European Union with Spain, who, as far as Gibraltar's concerned, regularly infringe Gibraltarian waters, regularly cause massive queues and disruption at the border. Spanish government I am not a particularly great fan of. My next caller is Joe, who is calling from Nantwich. Joe, are the European Union the enemies of the British people and perhaps more broadly of democratic Europeans too?
Good morning, Mr. Farage. They are actually Juncker, Barnier and Verhofstadt are our friends if you're a Brexiteer, which I am. They are doing the most fantastic advertising for us in which to get the hell out of this dictatorship that they are going to plan, because that's all it was. And can I just say to you, it's an honour and a privilege to speak to you. Thank you.
Joe, thank you. I do take your point of view, and maybe, Joe, that's why that opinion poll this week said 74% think that no deal is better than a bad deal. Maybe that sheer arrogance of those guys has forced the British public into thinking that. The problem then will be, what does Parliament do? And I say that, Joe, because we're hearing, John McDonnell hinting quite strongly that the Labour Party are now talking to pro-EU Tories, and that maybe Parliament's going to block all of this. So whilst I agree with you that they are behaving so appallingly that it makes us more Eurosceptic, I would suggest, Joe, that I don't think we're out of the woods yet. Do you?
No, but we let them continue. The more they continue with their intransigence and their rhetoric, is the better for us. And as for Mr. Hammond, well, I throw him in the same pit as the three of them, to be honest with you. I mean, he's totally and utterly fighting against the British people. And I reckon if they had another referendum, and if we should have one, I believe we should have, you'll find the vote would go 70-30, Nigel.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Let it happen.
I agree with that. I'm surprised you're so critical of our Chancellor, our ever-cheery, optimistic, happy, upbeat, inspiring Chancellor. He's about as inspiring as a pallbearer, isn't he? Joe, I thank you. You're listening to the Sunday edition of the Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington, D.C., and it's now 11:45.
Coming up at 12 on LBC, Majid Noir's.
A powerful cross-party group of MPs is drawing up plans that would make a no-deal Brexit scenario impossible. Are you that desperate to leave the EU that you would burn your own house down?
Majid Noir's on LBC.
Room service. Sorry to disturb you, but please make sure you don't miss the Sunday Times Best Places to Stay guide this weekend.
We're bringing you the best hotels by the beach, in the countryside, and for great food. Plus, we reveal the #1 hotel in the UK. Exclusively in the Sunday Times this weekend.
Calling all units. Reports coming in of Sky's gripping new cop drama Tin Star, epic Game of Thrones, and loads more shows, all with Sky TV from £20 a month. Sky TV and Sky Q, the Next Generation box, have been sighted in the vicinity. Witnesses report watching wirelessly all round the home for just £12 extra a month. Units should respond immediately and search Sky Q to join or recontract. Sky. Believe in better.
£20 standard setup. New 18-month TV contract requires Sky Q multi-screen. Sky Q kit loaned at no cost. Upfront payment required. Terms apply.
You've worked hard your whole life, building up your business and your personal wealth, only for the tax man to take a big chunk after you're gone. Protect your family and loved ones by talking to one of the estate planning specialists at Barnes Rofe. We'll look at your situation and help you to plan ahead and manage your estate for inheritance tax. Don't delay. Visit barnesrofe.com. Barnes Rofe. Clever accountants for business.
When you run your own business, being in the right place at the right time can make all the difference. And as the UK's #1 commercial vehicle brand, we understand this too. That's why at the Ford Transit Show live event, we'll give you a free sat-nav when you purchase a new commercial vehicle, so your business can be in the right place at the right time, every time. Visit your nearest Ford dealer between the 7th and 15th of October. Ford. Together, we go further.
The free entry-level satellite navigation system available across the Transit range, excluding Base and Tornado series vehicles, to be contracted between the 7th and 15th of October 2017 and registered between the 7th of October 2017 and 30th of June 2018. Offer available to retail and eligible fleet customers only at participating Ford dealers. Not available with any other promotions.
Glad I brought a coat. Thinking ahead, Wilbur. Well, it's like getting home care from British Gas before winter catches you out. From only £12 a month, that's less than 40p a day. Your boiler's serviced every year. If it still breaks down, we'll fix it. And until 23rd of October, you get 1 month free on most home care products when you buy online. You brought the umbrella. Thinking ahead. Not bad for a penguin. Stay a step ahead of winter. Search British Gas Home Care. Conditions apply.
We now go live to Admiral HQ.
Admiral, you've promised customers lower prices for Admiral home and car insurance.
That's right. You can insure your home and cars on one policy and get guaranteed discounts.
And you promised flexible cover?
Yes. Start with a car or home and add others when it suits you.
Your home and car on one policy?
Exactly. We call it multi-cover insurance. You'll find it at admiral.com.
On a travel pack tailor-made holiday, you get to see the very best of the world. Tour the famous Route 66, the spectacular Canadian Rockies. Experience the magic and history of India, the wilds of Africa, or the exotic Far East. Start your journey with Travel Pack. For amazing prices on your tailor-made holiday of a lifetime, call Travel Pack today on 0208 903 9999 or visit travelpack.com. ATOL Protected.
It's Super Weekend at Lidl, with over 40% off selected products. Get Fairtrade Colombian ground coffee, just $1.49. A bottle of Cimarosa Sauvignon Blanc for $2.99. And a litre of cloudy apple juice, only 59p. Lidl, big on quality, little on price. Subject to availability, NI may vary, selected stores while stocks last.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Washington, only on LBC.
In the wake of Philip Hammond's gaffe when he called the EU negotiators the enemy, I'm asking, is the European Union as a whole the enemy? And I think it is the enemy, not just of us, but of freedom-loving people across Europe. And I'm not getting many callers coming on and telling me that I'm wrong. So come on, ring up. Tell me that the EU is a great success. Tell me that the United States of Europe, run by the European Commission, is the right thing for the future of Europe. Tell me that the EU is right about Catalonia and that necessary force was used. 0345 60 60 973. My next caller is Susan in Liverpool. Susan, good morning.
Morning, Nigel. I agree with you, and I agree with Philip Hammond in one way only. The fact that he's called an enemy. I think he's useless and hopeless in every other way, yeah?
Right, okay.
I am... yeah, there are only attributes. He's hopeless and useless. But basically, I am sick to death of this whole Brexit thing. I just want to leave, and I want to leave now with no deal. And I don't think we should give that shower 1 penny of our money, not one penny. We should just go, because I know there are lots and lots of countries that need us more than we need them.
So why, I mean, you know, you've made the argument very passionately, why is Theresa May flying all the way to Florence to give a speech to say what lovely people they are?
Because at heart she's a Remainer, and I think she's hoping that if she dilly-dallies enough, and it takes even longer, that eventually we'll have to stay in. I don't trust her as far as I can throw her.
No, well, look at the response to the question Ian Dale asked her last week. You know, Ian Dale on LBC said to her, you know, how would you now vote? She couldn't answer the question, could she?
No, she couldn't answer the question. And to be honest with you, when she was first made Prime Minister, I did have just a little hint of hope that she would see us through in the correct way. But now she's talking about it taking even longer, Nigel. And to be honest with you, I don't think we need to pay them a penny. I just want to go now.
No, How would you assess Susan, the Prime Minister?
I would assess the Prime Minister as weak with no backbone. So I think she is a weak. I don't care if she's a nice person. I don't want a nice person. I just want someone who will put the interests of the great British people as their first priority. Okay, that's all.
Okay. No. Plain-spoken Susan from Liverpool. We get the message very, very clearly. I'm fed up with the EU, Hillary and all the elites and the media telling us what to think. Many of us have already been convinced that we're not humans, we're just lemmings now, says Darryl from Rochester. Leslie says Jacob Rees-Mogg would know exactly how to handle leaving the EU. More than could be said of the current lot. And Steve says, why would anyone want to be part of the EU after the way they're treating us? And my next caller is calling from France. It's Samuel who's calling from Montpellier. Good afternoon there, isn't it, Samuel?
Yes, the afternoon, yeah.
Hello there. Yeah. So you're calling from Montpellier. You're living in France, are you, or?
I'm living in France, yeah.
Okay. So what is your view about the European Union and the way the negotiations are going?
Well, as an English citizen in France, I'm slightly nervous of the effects of Brexit on the millions of people living in the European Union, for me and all my family. And especially, I've got a handicapped brother, uncle. Sorry, he's been handicapped for almost all his life, and I'm quite worried for how his Brexit's going to affect him, especially if there's a hard Brexit, on his future, because he lives with us.
And are you saying that, Samuel, in terms of healthcare, or?
Yeah. For his well-being.
Yeah. Well. Look. I mean, we have had English people living in France and French people living in England, and it's been going on, you know, way before we were ever members of the European Union. Now, I mean, I accept your point about reciprocity with healthcare and things like that, but I don't think just because we're leaving the European Union that somehow your family living in Montpellier are suddenly going to get treated badly. I just don't believe that's even possible. Samuel, tell me, what job do you do in France?
I haven't got a job.
You haven't got a job?
I'm a student.
You're a student, right? And how old are you, Samuel?
Yes, I'm 14.
You're 14, right? Okay, that's quite a young caller. So you really, your family are genuinely concerned about Brexit, yeah?
Yes, they are.
Okay, I understand that, but can I ask you another question? Do you look at Mr. Juncker, Mr. Barnier, and these people? Do you think that they're dealing with Britain in a reasonable way?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Would you? All right, well, I'm not going to agree with that, Samuel. I think they've been high-handed, they've been arrogant, and if they were more grown up in terms of the negotiations between us and them, then I think you and your handicapped uncle living in Montpellier would, months ago, have perhaps received some better assurances about your future than you have, and I think the EU's the enemy and has been a block to it. Samuel, I thank you for your call, your concern call. But again, you see, again I make the point that it's so obvious that there is a deal to be done, and yet they simply don't want to do it. Andrew is calling me from the Docklands. Andrew, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. Yes, I think my point is that the way the EU are behaving, it's like a very domineering, wealthy partner in a divorce. You know, we wouldn't accept the way they're treating, a weaker spouse, for instance, the way they're treating them. Everyone would be over them, the judge would be over them, they'd probably have a big order made against them, but they seem to be getting away with it, in this context. And it just seems to me, grossly unfair on their behalf, and it just shows you what a domineering bunch they are.
Yes, they are a domineering bunch, and they've become more so. But it doesn't actually reflect very well on the British government, the fact that we keep appeasing, and yet getting nowhere, does it?
No, it's exactly it. And you really, I think that most of the government is Remain. They don't want to leave. They see themselves in obscure employment, and everybody else is going to do very well out of it. If free trade hits the world, it's going to be great everywhere. All the countries around the world are going to benefit from it. At the moment, it's just the wealthy ones that are stuck in the EU with these bureaucrats rigging prices high.
Does Theresa May need to change the game on Thursday?
I think we need to change with Theresa May, to be honest, and quite a few of the people in the cabinet.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. And my final caller this morning is Peter, who's calling from Bury. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Nigel. Good morning. About Philip Hammond, I think things are said in the correct way. Some people think that it's not the best way to say things. Well, even the millionaires at the front bench of the Conservative cabinet are starting to wake up, I think. I look at it like this, Nigel. I'll be straight and honest with you now. It is time for a world with no borders. It is time for a world that people come to get together through peace, and it's only the people that can do this. It's only the billions around the world that vote in the few, and the few ruin it for the rest of them because they are greedy and want to keep their cake. Exactly as it happens now with the Commission, and you know that with the Commission in the EU. It is a greedy bunch of people who you cannot vote out.
And you can't vote them in, and you can't vote them out. And Peter, that's the end of the show, and I thank you. But that point's fundamental. They can't be voted in. They can't be voted out. They can do pretty much what they like, and they're acting against the interests of the peoples of Europe with the way they're behaving in these Brexit negotiations. And Theresa May needs to stand up very strongly on Thursday, indeed. You've been listening to the Nigel Farage Show on LBC from Washington, DC. I'm back tomorrow evening from 7. Coming up at 3 o'clock, it's Alex Salmond. But up next, live from London, it's Majid Nawaz.
Thank you, Nigel. Coming up, Jacob Rees-Mogg has suggested that it's inappropriate for men to call themselves feminists and that giving himself a label would be ridiculous. Since when can a